Welcome to the Unpacking the Framework video series. This series provides valuable information about the National Best Practice Framework for Early Childhood Intervention. My name is Denise Luscombe, and this video introduction is being recorded on Whadjuk Noongar Boodja. I acknowledge the traditional custodians of this land and the land you're listening from, and recognise their continued connection to country, waterways and community. I would also like to pay my respects to their elders, past and present. This video is one of a series that describes the evidence and practice information that underpins the principles of the National Best Practice Framework for Early Childhood Intervention. You will hear from both national and international speakers throughout this video series. This video covers rights-based, a universal principle of the National Best Practice Framework for Early Childhood Intervention, and is presented by our international speaker, Dr Ivelina Borisova. Ivelina is UNICEF's Early Childhood Development Advisor for the region of Europe and Central Asia. She leads the regional strategy and program priorities on early childhood development and early care and education across the region. Prior to this, Ivelina was UNICEF's global lead in the area of early childhood education and care, responsible for global strategy development and its implementation across regions in the area of early childhood education and care aimed at achieving equitable access to quality pre-primary education by 2030. Prior to joining UNICEF, Ivelina served as the Director of Impact and Innovations for Early Years at Save the Children. She's a national of Bulgaria and she holds a Doctorate in Human Development and Education from Harvard University.
Dear viewers, thank you for choosing to see this video that will provide some key references to the human rights approach to early childhood intervention. My name is Ivelina Borisova and I'm the Regional Advisor for Early Childhood Development at the UNICEF Regional Office for Europe and Central Asia. Every child, no matter where they're born or who they are, has the right to a safe, healthy and fulfilling start in life. At UNICEF, we believe that protecting and promoting child's rights is the foundation for building a better future. We work in over 190 countries and territories around the world to protect the rights of children and ensure that every child, particularly the most vulnerable, survives and thrives. Now, early childhood intervention services are key to ensuring these rights are realized and no child is left behind. And for young children in particular, every step we take today shapes a child's tomorrow. International human rights standards and principles provide a guiding and binding framework for action for all of us, policymakers, service managers, and professionals engaged in early childhood intervention. And there are two key international human rights treaties that support early childhood intervention. The first one is the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child, which was adopted in 1989, and the second one is the UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, adopted in 2006. Together, these two conventions provide a starting point as well as a compelling rationale and an overarching legal framework for early childhood intervention policy and practice. It's good to know that almost all states in the world have ratified the two conventions, assuming the legal obligation to promote and protect the rights of all children within their jurisdictions. The conventions create an actual imperative to invest in early childhood intervention to support the progressive realization of the rights of children with disability in early childhood and beyond. Children's rights are defined by the conventions must be protected through national legal frameworks that guide planning and delivery of national policies, professional practices, services, and support for individual children and their families. Now, let's talk a little bit more about the two conventions. First, the Convention on the Rights of the Child. It's the foundational international treaty that sets out children's rights. These rights are interrelated and they're comprehensive and they build on each other. They stipulate that every child has a right to life, to identity, to grow in a family environment, to survive and develop, to benefit from the highest standard of health and healthcare, education, social protection, to be protected from violence, to play and leisure and others. Now, the right to development is particularly relevant to early childhood intervention because it mandates actions to ensure that every child has an equal opportunity to fully develop his or her human potential. Infants, toddlers, and young children, including children with developmental delays and disabilities, are holders of all rights enshrined in the Convention, and state parties are required to support the realization of their rights without discrimination of any kind. The UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, now to look at the second one, further reinforces the provision to ensure full and equal enjoyment of all rights of children with disabilities. The articles related to the family, Article 23, Education 24, Health 25, and Habilitation and Rehabilitation 26 are particularly relevant and important to early childhood intervention. Now, what are the implications for early childhood intervention policy and practice? Well, the two conventions promote ECI as a right. That's the most important part to start with. And although mentioned within the Convention of Healthcare, the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities highlights the importance of early intervention specifically. It calls on states to provide early identification and intervention and other services to minimize and prevent further disabilities. And furthermore, the human rights framework established by the conventions call for ECI policies, services, and practice that build on and align with the human rights approach to disability and the human rights standards, and also on policymakers, service managers, and professionals involved in ECI to understand, to promote, and protect the rights of children with disabilities, including in planning, implementing, and measuring policies and services. So it's quite comprehensive. Now, let's talk a little bit about some of the rights. The Convention on the Rights of the Child recognizes that all young children need to be provided with appropriate services to realize their rights. The Committee on the Rights of the Child highlights that these programs should meet young children's needs. For what? For nurturance, emotional and sensitive guidance, as well as exploration, play, and learning. The Convention also acknowledges that young children with disabilities may face additional needs and barriers and may need special protection and assistance to ensure their development, well-being, and inclusion. This assistance should be appropriate to the child's condition and circumstances of the carers and shall be extended to all eligible children and carers. The Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities highlights further that rehabilitation and habilitation services in the areas of health, education, and social services should begin at the earliest possible stage, in essence, making early childhood intervention imperative as early as possible. Services and provisions as close as possible to the child. Now, this links between early in the home and in the community based on identification, early intervention, preschool, schools should be established to ensure smooth transition and inclusion of the child in the education. How these provisions shape early childhood intervention policy and practice? Well, in essence, they require early childhood intervention services to address the unique needs of every child and family in a holistic and comprehensive way, to support the support that should be provided as early as possible, as we already said, and that services should be community-based and provided as close as possible to the child and the family. Services should also be based on the assessment of individual child needs and strengths and involve a team of professionals working in collaborative team approach, including the family as one of the most important parts of the team to support the child's development. If we look at the full enjoyment of rights, inclusion, and participation, the conventions actually set a very bold vision that every child with disability should realize their rights and lead a full and decent life in conditions which ensure dignity, promote self-reliance, and facilitate the child's active participation in the community. The conventions build on the recognition that young children, including children with disabilities, are active and full members of their families, their communities, and societies, and have their own concerns, interests, and points of view. Now, that means in every decision and action to implement the rights of children with disabilities, including with respect to health and education, we should aim to maximize inclusion and participation of children with disabilities in all aspects of life. For young children with disabilities, full inclusion is attained when children are given equal opportunities to participate in the family routines, to play and interact with peers, to engage in community activities, sport and leisure, and learn and explore in a variety of settings with their peers. The implications for ECI policy and practice are very clear. The principles, values, and goals of inclusion should be driving all support provided to young children with disabilities and developmental delays, including early childhood intervention. Children's rights to support should be guaranteed, while ensuring children's rights to play, leisure, family life, interactions with peers, and exploration and learning. And professionals, in partnership with parents and other caregivers, should work towards maximizing the child's participation in everyday experiences. Services should be delivered where children live, play, or spend their time in order to reduce isolation and facilitate learning and development. And the rights of children to express their views and participate in the decisions concerning them in accordance with their evolving capacity should be respected. And what about with respect to parental responsibilities and special support to parents? We know just how crucial parents are, and families as well, and the Convention on the Rights of the Child recognizes that. It recognizes that parents and families have the primary responsibility for and are central to the child's development and well-being. The family provides the nurturing environment, the protection, and the consistent care necessary for every young child to survive and thrive. And while respecting the role of the family, the Convention also calls on states to take action to support parents in fulfilling their child-rearing responsibilities. Program and services, among the others, shall empower parents to promote their child's learning and development. Parents and caregivers of children with disabilities should be provided with special assistance and services to meet the additional needs or circumstances of their child and family. And of course, very concrete implications for early childhood intervention policies and practice. You can see the parallel very clearly. ECI policies, services, and professional practices should build on the understanding of the primary importance of parents and the family for the child's development and well-being. And ECI policies, services, and professional practices should value parents as partners and promote their participation as full members of the teams supporting the child's development. Of course, additionally, ECI services should strengthen family competencies and focus on empowering parents to nurture their child's development, and professionals should really focus on respecting and support family decisions, values, and priorities, except when they may contradict or contravene the rights of the child, of course. Professionals should help parents and families to celebrate the childhood of their child with disabilities, to value and enjoy their family everyday moments, interactions, and activities which are essential to their child's learning and development, as well as to the family life. And finally, ECI services should support parents to become advocates for their child's rights and for themselves too. Maybe in conclusion, the few points to highlight: the Convention on the Rights of the Child and the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities provide a normative human rights framework for early childhood intervention for infants, toddlers, and young children with developmental delays and disabilities. As I've already shared, they provide the standards with which state parties need to translate into national policies and practice to fulfill the right of every young child with disability or developmental delay to develop her or his full human potential and progressively enjoy all human rights on equal basis with other children. ECI services shall be designated and implemented in a way that promotes and protects the rights of the child, including children with disabilities. Thank you very much, and I hope this video was helpful and inspirational for your work.
We hope you've enjoyed this video, part of the video series Unpacking the Framework for the National Best Practice Framework for Early Childhood Intervention. The review of best practice in early childhood intervention was commissioned by the Department of Social Services. Led by the University of Melbourne, the project team included PRECI, professionals and researchers in early childhood intervention, Murdoch Children's Research Institute, SNAKE, National Voice for Our Children, Children and Young People with Disability Australia, and ACD, Advocating for Children with Disability. Coordination and production of the video series was led by PRECI.